all my life. Been grinding all my life. Sacrifice, hustle paid the price. Want a slice, got to roll the dice. That's why all my life I've been grinding all my life. All my life, been grinding all my life. Sacrifice, hustle paid the price. Want a slice, got to roll the dice. That's why all my life I've been grinding all my life. I'm married to this game.
What's the deal? It's your boy Sam holding it down right here in the heart of North Kakalaki. Alongside me is the one and the only Nate, straight out of London. So buckle up because today we're about to get deep into the world of fantasy football and all things roster wars related. We're not going to hold back either. You're going to get the real deal breakdowns, the fire debates, and all the unapologetic opinions you can handle. They'll hit you in the mouth like a linebacker on game day. So whether you're cheering from the bleachers or strategizing on your couch, we've got your fix right here. So here's the game plan. If you're vibing with what we're throwing down, don't be shy and show us some love. Like and subscribe and stick around to the latest and greatest in the world of pigskin pandemonium. We're stoked to have you on board, and we're bringing the energy to every episode. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the International Football Bros podcast, where passion meets pigskin and the excitement is off the chart. Let's do it. What's up? What's up? What's up, Nate? How you doing?
Hey, Sam. Yeah, no, it's good, man. It's been a while. How you doing?
Good. It's glad to be back, man. It's been a little bit since we did an episode because, just the season and everything going on. So damn near the playoffs now, though.
Yeah, man. The seasons just fly by these days. It feels like always that off-season build-up. Everyone's getting excited for the season, and flip, you blink, and we're 10 weeks in. We're 2 weeks away from the end of our regular season and straight on to playoffs. So, yeah, lots to play for. Business end of the season.
Oh yeah, it's been a crazy season too. Like some stuff's been happening that's been different than what we've seen before. So kind of the point of this show, I think we wanted to do is we wanted to get in here and just do like an in-season review, and just kind of give our takes on what we've seen and what's going on. It's a fun time though to be in roster wars. Like every division, it's got stuff they're playing for, so it's nice and all the quality content everybody's putting out. It's hard to keep up actually.
Yeah, exactly. I think the forum has been super busy. There've been obviously all the monster matchups, sort of every single week. There's so many articles just sort of flooding the forum, and it's difficult to keep up. But yeah, just someone that like I do a couple of stats articles. I know obviously Mike in the Legion, he does his weaponry. I know obviously the kiddie pool's done. I think it's all good that we continue to sort of, even some of the main guys and even the minor leagues and the futures, it's always good to post and just create that sort of positive content. And even if it's just a thumbs up good article, I think the guys that post that content really appreciate that sort of affirmation sometimes.
Oh yeah, man. I know firsthand how much work goes into that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's any kind of thing anybody says, I know a lot of people, they're appreciative of it. So I'm gonna go ahead. I put some slides together kind of to go over kind of what we are gonna try to keep us focused on what we're going to talk about today. First couple, I just wanted to talk about just kind of what we've seen, maybe what was a surprise or what's been some surprises for you, either NFL wise or fantasy wise. I know before we got on, you were talking about the Saints and just what's been going on with them and how the Falcons they kind of dropped the ball from what I think most people predicted they would do this season.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think, look, the NFC South is probably, we will give it the least amount of time possible. It's really not worthy of anything at the moment. But yeah, as I was saying to you beforehand, I think everyone was sort of hyped around sort of the Bijan guys in town, and obviously Pitts and London and sort of running with Ridder, and it's really sort of fallen quite flat. And I think the NFC South is an absolute mess. The Saints aren't any better. The Bucks aren't any better. But there's still a few little fancy darlings out there that people can pick up. I think Kamara, even after suspension's been an absolute ball hog. So that's positive. And if we throw flipping Jameis under center, who knows what's going to happen? I'm sure every defense is going to get streamed, and you get all those cornerbacks gobbling up those picks. But it's been a bit messy in the NFC South.
Yeah, I think NFL wise, some surprises or maybe some affirmations. Like we kind of everybody kind of hyped up Detroit. It looks like Detroit's legit. They falter here and there, but their offense is, man, they're good. The Patriots are somebody that come to mind when I think of somebody that's just sucking ass, and I thought they'd be better than what they are. But
yeah, I think Big Bill's sort of getting caught up now. I think Mac Jones, Mac Jones is serviceable, but I think obviously that team is just a little bit out of its depth now. Where I don't think Mac Jones is progressing that team. I think defenses have sort of worked out how that offense is run, and it's quite limited there. But sort of just going back to Lions, you mentioned. I just saw some. I've obviously gotten a subscription with The Athletic and read a couple of articles. I see Texas A&M are going to be pushing quite hard to try and get Big Dan Campbell to leave the Lions to go to Texas A&M, which is crazy. But obviously, look, I'm sure you guys follow the college stuff a lot closer than I do from across the pond here, but it's mind-blowing the amount of money that those college coaches earn. Is that just the market of college versus sort of NFL, or what's the reason behind it?
Man, I think the person to actually ask about that is Colin, because he's deep into it. Colin and Shaq, they follow way more religious than me. I actually joined a league of Shaq's this year, Campus to Canton League, a C2C, and it's gotten me more involved. But man, like I can't keep up. But yeah, they throw money. They throw money at those guys, and that's why Jim Harbaugh, he's at Michigan. He left the 49ers, because the issues with our owner, and it seems like he's happy, even though he's suspended right now. But
no, exactly. And then what are your thoughts with sort of jumping back to sort of the NFL side now with the Browns? Because I think obviously that AFC North has been an absolute powerhouse of a league. All those teams that are sitting quite pretty, quite aggressive, winning a lot of games. The Browns having one of, if not the best defense in the league so far this season in terms of actual production. Let's sort of forget about fantasy for the moment. Do you think the Browns are just sort of going to fade back into the darkness now? Because I think they're starting Dorian Thompson-Robinson or that young rookie this week.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell they're doing, man, because, I mean, they made a statement game last week when they went into Baltimore and beat Baltimore. Their defense is legit. If it's not the number one, it's damn close to it. And last time DTR got that start because of a Watson injury, I think he threw like 4 interceptions and had multiple sacks. It wasn't pretty. No. So I don't understand why they're going with DTR instead of who's the other guy there?
PJ Walker, I think.
PJ Walker, yeah. So, I mean, they're kind of and it's it's past the trade deadline, so it's bad timing, but I would think that they had playoff aspirations, and with the quarterback situation the way it is now, I don't know.
Yeah, it's gonna be difficult because look, the Ravens. I know the Ravens just went and capitulated against the Browns, but the Ravens have also looked like a very well all-rounded team. They're just finding themselves to lose to themselves. Then obviously Mike Tomlin. I still will stand behind it. I think Mike Tomlin's been one of the greatest coaches of the last decade, if not longer. I just think he's so consistently competitive. That team knows how to get results when you sort of least expect it. And I think that AFC North, and then you can never write with the Bengals. I know they obviously just went and had a hiccup to the new absolute surprise of the season and possibly rookie of the year, CJ Stroud, but I think that's been a great story is Texas, or the Texans, sorry.
I mean, so just switching gears to fantasy wise, he's the first little picture I got there, man. Like I wasn't out on CJ Stroud when it came to rookie drafts. I just didn't value him as high as I did A-Rich or even Bryce Young. And I think maybe that's because my own bias with Ohio State quarterbacks. I don't know. I used to have a bias against USC wide receivers, Marquise Lee, and because it just seemed like they would come to the league and you got all hyped for them and they weren't anything. And I kind of felt the same with Ohio State quarterbacks. And I'll be the first to admit I did not rank him high as I should have, because he calls himself, what is it, a pass something specialist. He's got perfect accuracy, a pass ball specialist. I'm like,
yeah,
and I've seen some of his throws. It's like this dude puts it on a rope right where it needs to be, where it's his wide receiver and that's it, or it's not getting caught. And the dude's legit.
Look, he's turned that offense. You talk about guys that he's making so productive: Tank Dell, Noah Brown, Nico Collins. These guys were sort of waiver wire. Obviously, Tank Dell's just come to the league, but Noah Brown and Nico Collins are great examples of these guys were free agents for the last.
Noah Brown struggled to get on Dallas's team, and then now look at what he's doing. Like,
and I think that's sort of credit to obviously CJ Stroud taking the opportunity, but I think you also have to take your hat off to DeMarco Ryan. I think the coaching there has been superb. They've obviously got quite a hungry sort of defense, and that team wants to make a point and turn it around. They've got obviously high draft capital in your Will Andersons, but they've even got guys like sort of Henry To'oTo'o, sort of linebackers. These guys are all playing well. Derek Stingley's coming back from injury, so it's an exciting time. And they're probably a little bit lucky being in that AFC South, because I think that AFC South, I know A. Rich's injury was a real heartbreak for all fantasy players, because we saw the potential there, and then to sort of take that step back. But
everybody thought the Jags were going to be the next thing since sliced bread,
and Trevor Lawrence seems to have just stuttered a little bit. He sort of had that league, and even Will Levis now. If we jump into sort of the Titans, I think he had a debut like no other debuts, but then off the back of that, he sort of struggled again. So yeah, I think it's pretty volatile. I think who your sort of picks now for who your top 3 NFC teams and who your sort of top 3 AFC teams going into sort of this stage of the season and in the run-in?
I think, I'm biased, obviously, 49ers, but I think when healthy and when focused, we are dangerous. The Eagles, they're dangerous. They're dangerous in the form I think they wear you down. Whereas the 49ers just pop you in the mouth and just go. And then if I had to pick another NFC team, I like Detroit, because that offense, they are power. They got high offense, powerful. AFC, you can't ever rule out the Chiefs. You can't, I hate to say the Bengals because they look silly, but they can come and win anytime. Yeah. And I want to say the Bills, but I don't really. I'll say Miami over the Bills right now, because I think Miami is another team that's got that high powered offense, and that's my if I had to pick 3 on each, thinking about it just right now, going off the cusp, that's who I would pick. What about you?
Yeah. Look, I think sort of I'll sort of on the AFC side, as you say, you can't look anything further than sort of the Chiefs and just those players that they've been there, they've done it, they'll know how to sort of bring it back around. And no one in the AFC West is really giving them much worry. I think the Chargers haven't really kicked on to another gear. The Broncos are finding their feet, but they're so far out. I agree with you. I think on the AFC East side, I think the Dolphins are definitely putting a huge speed bump in that Bills team, and the Bills team is really struggling to sort of get through sort of adversity and difficult games. They're struggling to win tricky games, and they're sort of their own worst enemy. And then sort of the NFC side, I like the way the Cowboys are looking. I like sort of Dak, and I think that defense is really hungry as well. I think Micah Parsons is a good man to build around, and I think he levitates that defense as well when they're on the field. They have been obviously quite lucky in terms of the teams that they've played, and they seem to have struggled against some of the bigger teams like the Eagles, etc. But
and that's why I keep them out. I keep them out because of that, because they beat the teams they're supposed to beat. Yes. But then in other games where I've seen Detroit go in and beat somebody that oh man, hey, that kind of put that on notice. So, but I agree. I am a Dallas hater, but they are it's hard not to consider them.
Yeah. But as you say, I think sort of we've done essentially a full circle here. But going back to the Lions, they're looking spicy, and but at the same time, that sort of that NFC North now. I think the Vikings getting JJ back. Dobbs has got a point to prove in the sense that I don't think he's got anything to lose there. I think if you took all those Viking fans and you told them 0-3 to start the season or whatever they were, you lose Kirk Cousins for the season, all of them would have said, okay, well, let's try push for the first pick overall. And their team's just sort of rallying. I think they've got Brian Flores now, the defensive coach, is doing pretty well with the guys in Minnesota. And look, I think it's going to be there's still a lot of football to be played. We're not even at Thanksgiving yet. It's just around the corner.
So NFL wise and fantasy wise, with the quarterbacks, like this one of my biggest surprises this year is it seems like it's kind of been flat, and some of the big names you would think that would be doing big things aren't really. Like I'm looking at roster war scoring, and Joe Burrow right now is quarterback 17. He hasn't missed a game, and he's quarterback 17. T-Law is quarterback 20. I mean, right now Justin Fields has more touchdowns thrown than T-Law, and Justin Fields has been out for 4 games, and he's quarterback 25. But then you go and you look at Dobbs. Dobbs could have been had off the waiver wire for free before the season started. Yeah. And he's a top 10 quarterback. He's quarterback 8. Sam Howell. the dude is the most sacked quarterback in the league right now. He's quarterback 9 fantasy wise. Like that, some of these guys, and Stroud's a top 5 guy. I think he's he's top 7. He's quarterback 7.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, these guys are, it seems like you could have found replacement level value at quarterback and even at running back this year. And it's the stud wide receivers that are kind of filling out the top guys there. And then looking at tight ends, another big surprise for me was you got 2 rookies with Laporta and Kincaid as top 10 tight ends. Like,
yeah, they've been awesome. And even Kmet, and even Kmet, I think he's also sort of made another step forward as sort of the option there, even with Fields being down. They've obviously had to use Bajet and a few other options there and Kmet. But I think the real big one there is obviously Hawkinson. I think he's just gone to the next level, and he's proving it. And he's proving it even without Dobbs. Like, obviously, I think his fantasy production has benefited massively from Justin Jefferson being moved onto IR, which has obviously elevated both Addison and Hawkinson. But he's still performing at an elite level. And Kelsey's sort of been a little bit slow to start the season, and even last week he had one of a few blips for him. What are your thoughts, staying on the Titan? What are your thoughts on Kyle Pitts? Is this sort of the end of the year for him, and it's Arthur Smith and it's the problems around the Falcons, or is there much hope?
That's what I was gonna say, man. Like, so Kyle Pitts is supposed to be the unicorn. He came in and he still hasn't produced at the same level that these rookie tight ends are able to do right now. And it's not just talent, man. Like, if you grade it off of talent, that'd be one thing, but situation and scheme are huge. And Arthur Smith is like the black plague to our fantasy players. Like, I don't know. I get it. NFL does NFL things, and we are the byproduct, product from that. But him, the way he wants to utilize his players or not utilize his players, it baffles me. But that was part of the reason I took that bet with Colin at the beginning of the season, saying that I thought Jahmyr Gibbs would have a better fantasy season from weeks 1 through 12 than Bijan. Dude, hands down, Bijan's the better running back. But Arthur Smith came out right after Bijan was drafted and said he's a Ferrari. We're not going to have the Ferrari out there all the time. We're going to, use him and scheme him. That tells me that, hey, his opportunities are not going to be what they should be. He's not going to get the Saquon treatment, the Derrick Henry treatment. If you're not getting the opportunities, you're not going to get an opportunity to get the fantasy points. So I think, I don't know, man. I think Atlanta keeps doing what they're doing. I don't know what Arthur Blank's going to do. I think they should go back to the drawing board and try to hire a new coach, offensive coordinator. I don't know, do something, because you got weapons with Drake London, Bijan, and Pitts. Like, what are you doing?
No, I tend to agree. What are your feelings with regards to? I'll sort of touch on a bit of a jinx here, but I feel the health of the running backs. I think quarterbacks obviously been quite bad this year. There've been quite a few big injuries, a lot of rookie quarterbacks, and maybe sort of guys sort of losing jobs and moving around. But I think on the running back side of things, we've actually had quite a good, other than your sort of Nick Chubb early season. There are not many names that pop to mind straight away in terms of big season-ending injuries, which I think is sort of elevated, because if you sort of skim through the roster wars, sort of top 5 there, you've got your McCaffrey, who I think most people would have predicted. But sort of Travis Etienne, Raheem Mostert, they too massive overachievers, would you not say? Or do you think this was the natural progression for Etienne?
Dude, I think so. Etienne, like, this is what we wanted him to be when he came out as a rookie. He had that first year lost. The second year was kind of, whatever it was. This year he's showing up. But you look at Etienne, you look at Mostert, you look at B-Rob, who's a top 12 running back. He's running back 6. Rashad White's getting bell cow. My point I was trying to make, though, is I think gone are the days where you have those bell cow running backs that get all the carries. You have some out there with, Saquon or Josh Jacobs and right now Rashad White, he's getting the volume. But I think the league kind of showed us this offseason with the Jonathan Taylor debacle that, hey, look, we're not going to pay you because we can replace you. I mean, Zach Moss was insane until Taylor came back.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you see that tweet that Saquon just put out?
No, I didn't.
Oh, bro. They asked him about loyalty to the team and everything, because, obviously they got to rely more on him with Nick's cousin. Yeah, Nick's cousin playing quarterback for him. And he said there is no damn loyalty. Like, loyalty, like this is a business. So, like, I think the tide is changing, man. I think that if you're not going to get on board and start looking at how these running backs are being valued, in the NFL, you don't start, doing something different with fantasy if you just start over drafting them, I think you're gonna get behind the power curve because they've shown that they'll put whoever's back there and they use committees, and these committees are actually helping the Ecklers, these guys stay healthy.
Yeah, it's prolonging their careers, as you say.
Yeah.
Like you sort of creating, and I like to look obviously as a trying to not be too biased Saints fan. You look at the sort of Mark Ingram, Kamara as one of the original sort of perfect sort of power couple where you had essentially a bell cow and you had an elusive running back. And I think your McCaffreys, they are absolute unicorns. Whereas now you are getting all these committees. Like just look at the Ravens, for example. Keaton Mitchell, Justice Hill, Gus Edwards. Obviously, they're J.K. Dobbins, and they've got Lamar running. So it's practically impossible for a fantasy owner to go in any week to say, "Oh, I'm pretty sure Gus Edwards is the man," or Keaton Mitchell, or it's becoming a lot more hit and miss. So as you say, it is quite difficult then to go with the draft. Bijan goes 101 consensus everywhere. But I imagine for the value that you're getting from Bijan at 101, do you think it's justified? Probably not.
I think you do that. I think you do that draft again today. I think A-Rich is the consensus 1-1, like I called before we even did all that shit.
Yeah, and CJ Stroud will just stay at the 102 like he should have been. But yeah,
I mean that's a conversation. Stroud versus A-Rich, that's tough. I like A-Rich because he offers that Konami code, like Hurts kind of ability, but like Stroud is Stroud. I think got drafted at 1-5 in the TT draft. He wouldn't have made it past 1-3 if we did it again.
No, absolutely not. And then someone like Jamal Gibbs has a great argument on being on par with someone like a Bijan Robinson, and that's purely now. That's not on actual individual qualities. Look, Jamal Gibbs is a great talent, an exceptional player, but it's more a case of the system that they're in, as you mentioned earlier. And you're throwing Jamal Gibbs, even with the Montgomery, they both can coexist in that incredibly explosive Detroit offense. Whereas if you look at that Bijan, who's an absolute Ferrari, he's struggling to take it all on his own shoulders because Arthur Smith's ballsing it up and not containing the ball enough. So yeah, I think the fantasy owners out there are going to start being very more judgmental on what systems players are drafted by in order. And I hope that does influence picks going forward.
I mean, it's a great time, man. It's a great time to be doing fantasy because it's nice when you see like when you look at and you see the ebbs and flows and how this stuff changes and trying to get ahead of it. Because you get ahead of it, you gain so much momentum over your competition. And if you were building off a wide receiver right now, I think you were setting yourself up for what is coming here in the next future. So yeah, it's fascinating. I love it. But one last player I will mention because I put him up here is Puka. Puka was dominating. Yeah. Like that was an insane stretch there, and it just was unfortunate the last couple of weeks with some injuries and with Stafford and everything else. But like he was out of nowhere kind of guy that you could pick up. I got him in every damn draft except for the one that matters in Roster Wars, because I wanted to diversify my portfolio, which was I learned that lesson. That was dumb because I was high on Puka, and obviously.
Look, I think as you say, I don't know the college side of the ball very well, and I think there was a lot of good grading on Puka, but he didn't light up the college football world necessarily. He wasn't sort of the top few prospects coming out, but he fell to a Rams team, and the Rams team was quite bare, but they obviously had their Cooper Cup, they had their Higbee, and they had whatever situation was in the backfield at that time. Because Kyron Williams is another one before he got injured that came out of sort of nowhere, but he wasn't a rookie, he was sort of a second year. But as you say, Puka sort of fell into the perfect position, and Stafford has proven multiple times now that he facilitates sort of a one-off or one-on-one wide receiver. That's his relationship. That's who he tries to feed with the targets. And as Cups come back now for fitness, the team is still super competitive, but they are starting to share it a bit, and Puka's fallen off. But as you say, I think going forward, Puka's an absolute stud, and he's someone that will hold a lot of value going forward, draft capital involved as well.
Yeah. So these guys were the guys I thought of when I thought of fantasy wise who stood out. You got anybody else besides those guys? I mean, there's like you said, Kyron Williams is another one. Keaton Mitchell, like I
Yeah,
kicking
yeah.
myself because I had him everywhere and I started dropping him places because I was like, he's not going to do anything. And then all of a sudden he comes back to my R, gets an opportunity and just blasts it, you know?
Yeah, look, I think we've touched on the majority of guys that are really sort of standing out. I think
A Chain was another one. Like
yeah, explosive,
yeah,
unbelievable.
I
Yeah,
was, I was afraid of him because of his size and, yep,
I
I've
think
learned some lessons.
I think one for sort of the older veterans as well that you could sort of throw out there was a bit of an Adam Thielen as well. I
Yep.
think people had sort of thought Adam Thielen was on his last legs, coming to the end of his career. Obviously, left Minnesota, ends up in Carolina, and the Carolina offense, even with Bryce Young, I don't think anyone expected Adam Thielen now to be sitting as wide receiver 9 in roster wars. And I think, look, it sort of adds value to looking at rookies now and rookie quarterbacks when they come in with maybe some veteran wide receivers that sort of essentially help them. It's good route runners, guys that are
Yep.
getting themselves open, and that's what obviously Bryce Young is looking for. And although that team's not necessarily winning, I'm sure Adam Thielen is winning a lot of people their fantasy leagues.
That's a good call. Every contender I have Thielen on it because I went and target. If I didn't have him, I targeted him because I wanted to see if that was going to be a thing, and it's been beneficial. So I agree. Thielen's been a good one. I'll move us on to the next slide. This one we're just talking about if you got any of your buy lows or any sell highs based off of what you've seen so far this year.
Yeah, sure. It's a difficult one to sort of look at. I think your buy lows, you are looking for sort of possible maybe injury bounce backs. You're looking at someone that's sort of trying to get out of sort of like Nick Chubb, someone that's maybe, and again, these are very high risk buy lows in the sense that we don't know how these guys can sort of come back. In terms of other values, I think the sell on the let's flip more into the sell high side. I think you're looking at running off the back of sort of breakout players and guys sort of on the older trajectory. I think your Kamaras, your not necessarily CMCs, but these guys that have been so explosive, and these are the real sell high guys. But at the end of the day, it all depends on what your team is looking at doing, what your team is sort of the lay of the land. What are your sort of thoughts off the top of your head, sort of your buy lows and sells?
My big buy lows were rookies that were underperforming or that had been hurt. So like I went to the door every other day with Bill and TT trying to get A-Rich because I was trying to plant that seed like, hey man, you're a competing team, not having a quarterback, and A-Rich is going to be, in my opinion, a big difference maker. So A-Rich, if you can buy him, 90 cents, 75 cents on the dollar, I'd do that. And then the other one is Bijan because there's a lot of owners out there, and I'm a Bijan owner in the league, and it's frustrating because you drafted him at the 1-1 pretty much everywhere, definitely in non-superflex leagues. You draft him at the 1-1, and he's getting you replacement level running back value. Like that's when you draft that high, you got to hit. Like if you don't hit, it sets you back so far. I can remember I remember last year in TT, Jameson Williams was drafted at the 1-2. Like I own JMO in another league and he's just roster fodder. Like he's not doing I love the talent, but he's not doing anything. You draft a dude that high and he's not producing, you're frustrated. So if I and going back to the Arthur Smith comment, like Atlanta's gonna do something and they gotta do something. So I will take your frustration. I'll buy him cheaper than what you invested in him. And then when they do something and he does what, everybody knows he's capable of doing, I'll be happy.
Yeah. Look, I think that's a fair point. And that's probably the best place to sort of identify is looking at the most recent draft, the highest picks, other names, someone like a Bryce Young. Again, there are fundamental issues with the Bryce Young in the sense that maybe his height is holding him back. But we have seen other smaller quarterbacks make it in the NFL. So maybe it is a bit of a Frank Reich sort of team process options from his best wide receiver, as we've just spoken about, is Adam Thielen, who's an older guy, and then Jonathan Mingo. His best running back currently, Miles Sanders, has fallen off a cliff, and then you've got obviously Chuba Hubbard. So there are not many weapons for him. He's got Hayden Hurst at tight end 1. So maybe it is an option to look at someone like Bryce Young. Maybe it is an option to sort of look at sort of other quarterbacks that have sort of come up a bit later, or even look at the wide receiver side. Look at someone like Quentin Johnson. And again, I was quite big on Quentin Johnson in the draft, and where I could get him on that sort of turn. There was a patch there where Addison Johnson and sort of Zay Flowers was going between sort of 6, 7, 8 or 7, 8, 9, and I was one of those people that was saying Johnson over the other two, which to me has clearly sort of fallen back, where he's by far the outlier there. I think Flowers and Addison have shown that they are elite. So to me now, I'm going to those leagues that I didn't draft him and sort of double downing and hoping to try buy him on a cheaper sort of deal. You would have thought when Mike Williams goes down, it's a Quentin Johnson fairy tale, but it hasn't really matured. But he's got the size there, and it is a case of maybe in a year's time on that roster with a fit Herbert. If it clicks, it's going to click big. But then again, it's all quite risky as well. If you don't believe in the player, you don't believe in the player.
And that's what it is. It's all based off your conviction, because I was not a QJ fan. I had QJ way down my boards, and the one place when I took over a roster that had him, I did my best to sell him, and I sold him high before the season because I found those guys that liked him, and I loved Addison. I just didn't like the situation because I was like, I stuck behind Jefferson. Like, you're going to be struggling to get targets. But, obviously Jefferson goes down. No one knows that Jets is going to go down, and Addison's featured and he's dominant. Like I believed in him pre-draft. So that was nice to see. When I think of a sell high, I think of honestly, because based off the last conversation, I'm trying to sell high on a running back because I know that value is inflated. And what I'm looking at is I'm looking at the volume. And, I do own Rachaad White in one place where I'm a contender, and it's all about the volume. If I'm not a contender, if I don't need Rachaad White's points, I'm selling him. I'm trying to get something. I'm trying to get a first-round value for Rachaad White because he's easily replaceable in Tampa Bay system. So he's my biggest sell high when I think of a sell high.
Yeah, I think other players too, sort of on the running back side, just to sort of throw out names that you talk about, sort of a Raheem Mostert. Like this guy's a home run hitter in the sense that if fit, and this is probably the first season he's actually been fit for the duration of the season so far. Hence, on rosterways, he's our running back number 2. Like this guy is a home run hitter. He's quick. He's rapid. He puts up big points, and he's someone that maybe is on the latter side of his career. So he's a good sort of sell high one. I think you sort of look around as well, DeAndre Swift, sort of Brian Robinson. These are good running backs, but we've spoken about how volatile running back is. You look at someone like Antonio Gibson 2 seasons ago, you would have said, Antonio Gibson is the bee's knees. And now he's sort of not with much. And how quickly systems can change. So again, it's identifying where your team is at, if you're a win now or if you're sort of a rebuilding side.
Yeah.
And if
because that matters.
Yeah, massively. And I think if you are rebuilding, I think anyone will tell you to sort of rather invest in the wide receiver side. If you are a win now, go and try and buy some of these older running backs lower than normal. People will obviously want the highest price for Raheem Mostert, but if you keep telling them this guy's old and this is his last season, then you might get him cheaper. So, as you say, there are different angles for every player, really.
We got Matt Pink Piggy. I call him Pink Piggy now. He's in the comments. He's been watching us. I've been trying to put this on the show, but it's not. But he wants to let everybody know that's listening. The top buys are the ones on the GOATS trade bait, and I really appreciate that call out there, Pink Piggy, because I agree. Like. My trade bait is with the top buys.
I'll double down on that, Sam, because I think the Saints have been selling absolute studs all season. We've just let Dobbs go for essentially a 6th round pick. Josh Dobbs is going to help the Koalas go all the way. We've been selling DeForest Buckner as well this year. We sold Jordan Hicks before he went on the IR. So if any teams in the PP want to win, they better start digging deep.
All right, so we spent and this wasn't orchestrated. We didn't really chop this up before we got on. We just kind of been talking football, which I really appreciate and I love.
No, it's been good.
But I'm going to keep this thing going. The next thing we're going to get into is we're going to talk about the playoff picture for each of the different conferences. And I know you've seen it, but for everybody else that hasn't seen it, Kenny's been doing a fantastic job of putting out a futures playoff pick. I know he kind of put it in the promising prospect one from last year. He's going to change that and put it in its own for going forward. But this obviously this is more quality of his work. I'm just kind of regurgitating what I see, and then you could speak on it because you're in the PP. But from what I see already, Koala's done. Chapter 8. He's got 9-1 record, first round bye. He's coasting. You know, he's got Chapter 8's got some good teams in it, but he's good. He's solid. Chapter 9 winner is the Buffalo Blizzard. Same situation. 9-1 first round bye. Chapter 7 likely winner, who's the winner right now, is Kenny at 7-3. I got some stars next to him, so he plays the Mayhem this week, and if he beats the Mayhem this week, then he gets the division, and he should be solid in the playoffs. And then so that's 3. And then the 4 remaining teams that are kind of vying for the last 3 spots, you got the Vegas Beach Tiger Sharks. Shaq, in my opinion, I think he's pretty solid because that all play, like worst case come to it, that all play is pretty significantly above everybody else. Yeah. I think Shaq's pretty solidly in it. Dallas Spurs at 6-4. His all play is decent with his points 4, and then the Tremors and the Falcons are both 5-5, still trying to get in. And it looks like, in my opinion, like this is going to be a race to see which one of these guys between the Spurs, Tremors, and Falcons. But pretty much, Koalas, Blizzard, Counselors, and Sharks are in. What do you see being in the division?
Yeah, I tend to agree. Look, I think we can give Kenny sort of the chapter 7. The Mayhem is the closest thing to him, but the Mayhem are about 400 points behind him. So it will take a miracle for sort of anyone to get rid of Kenny on top of chapter 7. It's going to be interesting because obviously the Tiger Sharks, they still have to play the Koalas and the Spurs. So yeah. Shaq's team is putting up big points week in, week out, but he's just lost to Sean Watson. And I think his remaining quarterbacks, he's got Kenny Pickett and Tommy DeVito, Nick's cousin.
Oh,
so I think that Deshaun Watson injury has really rocked him. I tried to give Shaq Dobbs. I was throwing Dobbs down his throat, but Shaq he wasn't listening, and I ended up taking a 6th from the Koalas for him. But it is what it is. But I think Shaq he's got enough points that I think, as you say, his all-play record, he'll still be strong enough to get through. But he does have 2 big tests now with the Koalas and the Spurs. The Spurs on the flip side, they play the Raiders this week, which they should win to go to 7-4. So I think they could leapfrog the Tiger Sharks. And then the Tremors and the Falcons, it's going to be interesting there because both of them have to go through the Blizzards and both of them have to go through the Badgers. So it is going to come down. I can see them essentially both losing to the Blizzards and both beating the Badgers. So they end on a similar record, and it might well come down to sort of an all-play record, which could be essentially these last 2 weeks. Who's going to score more? There's only 70 points behind them. So I think it is going to come down to a week 12 to decide the sort of the wild card place in the PP side.
Yeah, I got Carla, the Mayhem, and I got Sal with the Raiders, and they're both at 5-5. Like the Tremors and the Falcons are, but I got them, like you said, like a 400 point difference and a 45 game all play. So they're kind of, it might be too big of a hill for them to climb. But Sal had a great come around from how he initially started. But I think it's going to be those 3 Spurs, Tremors, and Falcons that are vying for those last 2 spots. And for the Dallas Spurs to just continue to get in, they need to win because they need to have that game advantage over Chris and Keith. But yeah, it's fun that it's going to be a contest for these guys and watching them. So every division has got, it's not all, well, the TT pretty much all 6 spots are almost solidified, but
almost locked in.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the PP. The next one is the RR. I know you're not in this conference, but like they even got more people. So you got the stupid pigskins who actually can show they can win, or they're the chapter 10 winner in the RR. They're the 9-1 first round bye. Currently, the Rottweilers are sitting at 7-3, and the Mungmen are sitting at 7-3, both in Chapter 11, Chapter 12. But they got big games in division right now that are going to determine whether or not they win those divisions or not. The Warlocks, the Arsenic, the Unicorns, Blitz, and even the Legion, because the Legion right now are a couple games behind the Mungmen. But if they were able to win out and Corbin had some missteps, the Legion could take it over. It's not likely.
Well,
but
I think that's the matchup this weekend. So the Mungmen and the Legion, So that's essentially a winner takes all, really, because as you said, the Legion are they 2 games behind at the moment?
Yeah, they're 2 games behind, so they got to win out.
I think they might. I think they might. I don't know if there's been a stat correction or not, but the Mungmen are actually 6-4.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. So I don't know if there was one game that you might have missed or not, but regardless, it's actually only 1 game out. So
it's pre-Thursday stat correction, so that might have just happened, and that's unfortunate for Corbin.
Yeah, that might have just happened. I'm not sure where maybe they lost to the Puffins or someone. But regardless, the Mungmen, I'm sort of looking at it now, are 6-4. So they're only 1 game ahead of the Legion. So
nice.
And the points difference is in favor of the Legion by about 15.
Yep.
So essentially, if the Legion win, they will go top of that chapter. So there are going to be big implications there in Chapter 12 for both Corbin and Legion. Then, as you say, Chapter 11 is really tight. You've got the Rotties, the Warlocks, and the Blitz all within 1 game, all within essentially sort of the Rotties and the Warlocks are within 100 points of each other. I think, do they play each other this weekend? No, the Warlocks get the crunch, and then the Warlocks will get the Rottweilers in week 12. So that's
that week 12 matchup's going to decide it.
That's going to be a great week 12, because as you say, and that's assuming the Rottweilers get past the Blitz. And yeah, as you say, I think Matt just obviously pointed out that you can't not consider the crunch, because the crunch have one of the best all play records in the league. They're sitting at sort of 138 and 92, and I think there are only a handful of teams, or at least in the RR. There we go. Matt's helping us. The gift that keeps on giving. The third in the all play. So yeah, if the crunch wins out here, the crunch could really sneak in as well.
Well, the RR's got all kind of shit going on. I can't fit everybody on this damn slide, guys. But hey, Mike's got a shot at the Chapter 12 title, and there was a stat correction, so Corbin's actually 6-4. So even if he needs to win, is what he needs to win. But in my opinion, you got the Pigskins are obviously in. Whoever the Chapter 11 winner is between Rottweilers and Warlocks, when I looked at the matchup, I think might be the Rottweilers. I think he might get that revenge on the Warlocks from earlier this year. Looking at all play, I think Arsenic and Unicorns are fairly safe. And then you got whoever wins that Chapter 12 and maybe MC2.
Yeah, the Unicorns, I'd be wary, because the Unicorns have to get past the Pigskins and then have to get past the Arsenic. So that's 6-4 for Ross. Might inevitably end up at 6-6. So he's just going to be really worried about putting up as many points as possible in his losses. What's really hurting
Tyler, the Warlocks, and Mike with the Blitz is that all play. They are lower on that lowest on this whole thing, and then MC2 is even above them. So they really got to make sure that record is good to be able to get them in off of that.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think if Tyler wins one more game and gets to 8-3, and finishes the season 8-4, I think he's definitely in the playoffs.
Agreed.
Which is what he'll be looking.
But if he were to lose out, then he's got his own destiny in his own hands, and so does Mike. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So that was the PP and the RR playoff picture. The next one that we're going to talk about is the other side of that, and that's draft capital. Because if you're not, in my opinion, if you're not trying to win it all, then you should be trying to win it all in the draft capital realm, because you're making your team better. And we got a familiar face here that's vying for the 1-1 right now, and that's you. That's the Saints.
Yeah, the lovely balancing act of the 101 without getting the pink, and I'm sure we'll get onto pink very quickly. Soon
it'll come next.
But focusing on the draft, pretty happy. Look, I was looking at rebuilding from the get-go this year. I've obviously got my first, which is clearly going to be the 101. And I've got the Raiders first, which looks like it's going to be the 103 at the moment. Cells obviously won the last few games, and I managed to obviously get the Blizzards as well. So I'm pretty happy having that draft capital. And I think the Raiders have done very well because the Raiders didn't have their first. So people would have worried about where they sat, being such a high draft pick. But they have obviously got the tough guy and the Spurs first round picks. So they sit at the 102 and 107. So it's between us, it's sort of the 5. Otherwise, very little trading with others. Badgers, Mayhem, Falcons, Tremors, and Koalas all have their own, and Tiger Sharks.
But you play the tough guys this week, and if you were to win, that may complicate some things for you in that quest for the 1-1, like with the draft rating and the points for rating and all that stuff. Like like you said, it's a tightrope you got to walk.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sort of lucky in the sense that the tough guys, even though they own 10, they actually have scored quite highly. So because they've outscored me, even if I was to beat them this week, not too severely, I think I would still have the 101. Because I wouldn't overtake Connie, because Connie's also scored quite highly and she's got 2 wins. So in terms of the worst record, I think the tough guys will have that. If the tough guys end up beating me, I've got the worst record and probably the worst points for, unless I think it's just the Raiders that I'm a fraction ahead of. Oh, no, I'm not anymore. So I've got the lowest points for. So I've got that wrapped up.
So your goal this week is to beat the tough guys to help you with not getting pink, but then not do it too much. We got a comment. Is that draft report on the site? Yeah, this is one of the amazing things that Sean has done. If you go to the draft tab and it says draft capital, you click on that, and I just copied and pasted this right from that. But yeah, it calculates everything for you. It tells you the formulas that Roster Wars uses. We use it based off it takes the draft or the record and then the points for, and they add those up. And then at whoever has the least or the most amount there is the higher draft. And then if it's tied, which you'll see coming up, or maybe not anymore, but last week it was tied, it goes to the alternate all play record, which no freaking clue how that's calculated. I'm not even going to try to figure that out. But yeah, right now, like you said, it's a tightrope, and right now you're doing your best to avoid pink, but get that 1-1.
Yeah, it's gonna be tight.
And we all know that Matt likes the pink. All right, so that is the draft capital for all of the for the PP on the RR side. So this is when we'll get to it the next slide of who you're looking for who you're in contention with pink is, and the Gators. The Gators are right now earning the 1-1. The Puffins are next in line, and then the Unforgiven, Blitz, Legion. You can see on the left-hand side is who currently owns the pick. The right-hand side is who is how their team is faring. So there seems to be a lot more people that have traded for picks in the RR than there was in PP.
Yeah. Yeah, I think obviously the crunch clearly sort of stands out there, sort of having 3 picks, but they've got 3 sort of. It's a tricky one there for the crunch because they've obviously got their own. And they're obviously playing so well now. They've obviously got the Blitz as well, who are there, who could make the playoffs, and they've got the Pigskins, so they could end up with 3 quite late first round picks. As you said, the Gators have got elite draft capital. The Unforgiven did very well in rebuilding with all their injuries, because at the start of the season, I think when we did a pod on Across the Pond, I think we pointed out that we thought the Unforgiven would be competitive in their chapter, but they had some severe injuries. Let me see if I could just quickly sort of get their team up here. But I think they lost Chubb. Just look through this. So they've lost Deshaun Watson now, but they lost Chubb. They lost Troy Anderson. And they've just had quite a lot of other injuries. Jelani Woods and a couple other handful names. But regardless, as you say, it's sort of better spread out. I think the interesting ones there to also look at is the Rottweilers, who are doing well themselves, and the Pigskins will both possibly have top 5 picks, provided the Legion don't essentially make the playoffs. And that's what we're assuming for the Pigskins ones, which is possible, comes down to this weekend. And the Pigskins has the Warlocks ones, which I'm sure at the start of the season he banked on that being a top 3 draft pick. And I'm sure we can all celebrate and Tyler pushing that Pigskins first as deep down the first round as possible.
Well, to clarify and set the record straight, old Matt texted me and said he thought that the Warlocks were going to win it all this season. So he knew that it was going to be a late pick. So Tyler, Matt will give you shit, on the forum, but he really respects the hell out of your fantasy prowess. So don't let him fool you. Well, yeah, old Matt and young Matt both they attacked this draft capital right here pretty well with having both decent teams, good teams. That just helps their future for even further down besides 2023. All right, now to get in the conversation I know you're loving to have, and that is the futures pinky. So right now, the way it all stands, you got the Tampa Bay Tough Guys, and I would like to take a vote with everybody that's in the comments right now that if Greg earns the Tampa Bay Tough Guys, then that should reflect in his main league team being pink.
Yeah, I agree. I strongly agree.
But he's 0-10 right now. Right now that team is the one that's setting the bar for the run for pink. Right after that and he's got a big game with you this week. So if he beats you, then that changes some things. But you got the Gators, then you, Unforgiven, and Puffins. But you can see those points for the Gators like that. That's a steep hill to climb. 23-77 to 26-43.
Yeah, I think the reality is since Greg took over the Tough Guys, he's really been putting up quite big points, and I think the big points that he's been putting up have been quite unlucky. I think he's obviously been slightly against the rub and had a few unlucky matchups. I think Greg will win one of the games between either myself this week or against Carla next week. Carla sits at 5-5, but Carla's only scored 2,600 odd points as well this season. So she hasn't been an elite scoring side. So I think
I got her at 26, 66, 44. So yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So I think we're in a situation where I do think the Tough Guys will get a win. Look, if the Tough Guys lose 12, then Greg has to wear the pink. That's embarrassing. Yeah, he had the full season to turn it around, or most of the season. But it's also going to come down to the Gators and the Puffins because they're playing this weekend. And if the Gators manage to get this victory over the Puffins this weekend, then the cat is amongst the pigeons, and I think the Saints could be in a lot of trouble.
So here's a scenario. If the Gators beat the Puffins, they both go to 2-8. If the Tough Guys beat the Saints, then the Tough Guys have got more points than the Saints. The Saints are pink.
I know, and the Unforgiven have got more points than the Saints as well.
They do.
So yeah, it is very squeaky bum time. It's getting very close. I'm the biggest Puffins fan this weekend, and I'll keep messaging and sending all my tips across as much as possible. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a tasty one because the reality as well is if the Gators go and beat the Puffins, and assume the Saints lose to the Tough Guys, but then the Saints beat the Mayhem. There is a reality here where everyone could end up on turn 8 or turn 8, turn 10.
Yeah.
So I think 2 wins doesn't necessarily make you home and dry. But then if I go and beat the Tough Guys, then I think it's essentially over this weekend.
If you beat the Tough Guys, it should be pretty damn over unless it's between the Tough Guys and the Gators. So
yeah, but I think going into this week, we've both set our lineups, and the Tough Guys are favorites by about 11 points. Again, anything can happen in fantasy, but
I remember Greg's first week. He made Shaq sweat. So and Shaq's a playoff team. So like, you never know.
Yeah, he's turned that team around. And you can see that but the 5 worst teams this year in the minors, and he's by far ahead on the points for. And that wasn't to credit to his previous owner. That was all him putting up those points. So look, it's going to be interesting. This weekend's going to shape a lot, and I think week 12 is going to be an absolute cracker.
And that's the best way to end the fantasy season, So all right, so next we're going to move on to the main league. Anything else you want to add for the Futures League before we move on?
No, I think it's been a
go
good
Puffins.
season. Yeah, absolutely go Puffins this week. Sorry,
Yeah,
Mike. I just think pink crocodiles is what we all want to see. Because
100%.
because there is a reality where I lose this week, and then the Gators are on the pink.
You know what would be
Uh,
really great is on the pink banner, you have a pink crocodile fighting a pink pig.
there we go. Or
You can
eating a
put it on
pink
both
pig.
of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But no, I think look, it's been a great season, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's going to be interesting last 2 weeks.
So main league, I'll provide context, but I mean, obviously I'm not in this league, so I can't provide in-depth stuff. But the DD is just like the RR, where it's a crapshoot right now. Kind of, there's a lot of teams that could get in. And once again, thanks Bill for what he does with the playoff picture he does every week. It helped with trying to figure this out. But looking right now, the Titletown Tyrants is the Chapter 1 winner at 9-1. He doesn't have a bye yet because there's other teams that are pretty close to him. But another win this week, and he would solidify a bye week in week 13. So I don't know how Nick's been praying to Jordan Love and smelling his socks. I don't know, but he's his team's producing right now, so he's the Chapter 1 winner, and that's a murderer's row right there in Chapter 1. Besides the Africans, which we don't know what happened to them. But all right, Chapter 2 is right now. Burn is the current leader at 8-2, and then Tom is the Chapter 3 current, or he's the Chapter 3 winner at 8-2 because the next one is more than 2 games behind him. And then you got the Eternals, Brad, the Gadabouts, the Slashers, the Mayhem, and even the Degenerates. They're all in the playoff hunt. Obviously, you see the disparity with the different records. Andy and Brad are 6-4. Bob's at 5-5, and then Carla and Rob they're at 4-6. But they're all play records. Their points for like between Bob, Carla, and Rob, they're all pretty damn close. So I think just if I'm forecasting it, I think the 3 on the left pretty solidified in the playoffs and probably staying where they're at as far as current winners, and they're just vying for the buys. I think you got the Eternals and the Gadabouts. I think they're pretty solidified and they keep doing what they're doing. They're going to get the playoffs, and I think it's the bottom 3 are fighting for that last spot. And like I said, their all play is separated by 5.
Yeah.
And their points for separated by 40, 50, or at 77. So like 75, like it's a hunt. And that's exactly what you want this time of year. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, I think if you just look at this weekend, the matchup, you got VP versus El Presidente. You've got the big battle of the Tyrants and the Eternals. And I think there's no one that will love it more than to beat Nick than Andy. So I'm sure the Eternals will do everything they can do to be the speed bump there for the Tyrants charge. And then if you just sort of skim through the fixtures, the Las Vegas Degenerates go up against the Muskies this week, and then obviously week 12 will be a huge battle against the Crusaders. So look, I think it's looking quite tight. The Nighthawks are playing the Gadabouts this weekend, so I think Burn might throw a bit of a span in the works there for the Gadabouts, but
Burn's playing for the chapter title this week, week 11. Yeah.
And I think it's going to be quite tight. Let's assume Nick does get the bye. It's going to be interesting to see who the next team that gets the bye along with him, because that could be quite an important game.
Yep, agreed. All right, over on the TT side, so this one's pretty much cut and dry, -1 spot. The Doppelgangers is the current Chapter 4 winner. They are fighting right now with the Vipers for that divisional spot. The Sty and the Red Knights, they're the current Chapter 5 winner, and he's fighting with the Nightmare, and I think they play this week for that Chapter 5 spot. And then the Goon Squad is the current Chapter 3 winner, so none of them are solidified. Goon Squad's fighting with the Justice, who they play. Let me see my notes. Yeah, Easy versus Bill this week. So there's a lot that's going to be decided this week. Right now, those are the current ones, and you got Justice, Vipers, and Gold Diggers. So the playoff picture for the TT is going to be the Doppelgangers, the Goon Squad, Justice, Vipers, and Gold Diggers. Those are your guaranteed 5 in. And then the 6th spot, which is not going to be the all play, it's just going to be who wins Chapter 5, is going to be between Sty and Greg, and that should be decided this week. So
yeah, well, that is the game this week. So that's going to be that's when it takes all.
Yep, and it's just been kind of been how it's been. There's been the haves and the have-nots in the TT this year. You've been able to see it all year. These have been the 5 that, we kind of knew who would probably be in the playoff picture, and then whoever won the Chapter 5. I, for one, did not forecast Sty being even in this conversation because I traded for his first next year, thinking that it would be really early. And the bastard, I didn't put in the Sty tax. That Sty is going to do everything he can to move and shake, and that's a mistake I'll never make again, because Sty is not afraid of making a move, and he's taken that. That was Mark's team, which has been the bottom of the division, and he's taken it, and it's now in contention for the divisional winner, which that's a feat in its own. And
but I think it's credit to both. It's credit to both him and to Bob. They obviously, when Bob got promoted up to the main league, they both swapped franchises. And I know obviously Bob started fresh regardless, but he went into a very tough sort of Chapter 1, and I think they've both done incredibly well to be in the playoff run. Look, you can only play against what's in front of you, and that's exactly what Sty is doing in Chapter 5. And you could argue that's exactly what Greg's doing with his nightmare as well. Is they both sit at 5-5, but someone has to win the chapter and someone has to go to playoffs.
Yep. So once again, and like all the other divisions, week 11, week 12, they're going to decide a lot of stuff. They're going to decide the TT, the buys, and who exactly gets in from Chapter 5. But that's that picture. Next, we'll go in just like we did for the Future League. We'll go into the draft capital. We'll do a draft capital for the DD. The Africans are on top, which is something Africans and the Dragons, which is something most people think is weird. But they both own their own picks, which is smart. If you're gonna suck, you want to make sure you own your own pick. That way you're maximizing that opportunity. The Degenerate, or I'm sorry, not the Silver Ballers old team, and the Degenerates are the one that own it. So Rob's done a quick turnaround after being pink for the last 200 years. He's finally he's in the playoff contention up there in DD, and he's actually got some draft capital to continue to his success. But yeah, you look at the Africans. The Africans are littered in there in the top 6-7 picks, and that's nice.
1,
and
4,
the Dragons
7,
as well.
10. Look, both of I assume obviously both the Africans and the Dragons knew what they were getting themselves into this year, and as you say, it's very unlike either of them to not be competitive, but they both are aggressively trying to turn this team around as quickly as possible. They've got a hell of a lot of picks, and I'm sure they'll know what they're doing in RFA, and you won't keep either of those teams down very long. So yeah, I think it's a good blueprint for teams looking to rebuild to look at. But at the same time, credit to someone like Rob as well. He's taken the scenic route in his rebuild, but his team's on the charge now. He'll probably end up with a top 3-4 pick, and his team's a lot more competitive as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a bit. I mean, it's a little early to be talking about draft, prospects and everything like that, but there is quite a bit of quarterbacks and wide receivers in this class that are sexy. So it's going to be nice to have those top 10 picks, what you're looking for. All right, so the TT side, this is where it makes me want to cry, because prior to the season, probably for like 2 years, I was planning to invest in this draft. And for all those that don't know, old Matt came in and ruined all my plans by just tanking like a MFer. Like, the most horriblest league is the horriblest team is going to go down in Roster Wars history as sucking. But he has definitely earned the 1-1. Like, there's no getting that away from him. You see he owns Haji's pick 2 at the 1-2 right now. Right now, the 1-2 and the 1-3 are pretty close. Haji and I are separated by some points that I'm hoping will flip-flop so I can have the 1-2. And then, look at Matt. Matt's got, several other picks besides just him and Haji. He's got Collins, who's a playoff contender. Well, he's in the playoffs. And he's got Bills, who's also in the playoffs. I was fortunate enough to pick the teams that didn't make or most likely not going to make the playoffs, but still, first round capital is nice.
Yeah, look, I think you, as you can see there, the two teams that are rebuilding aggressively are the ones that are in the capital, and it's impossible not to rebuild or restart things without draft capital. I think that's what we all need to realize in Roster Wars. You can have as many Warbucks as you like, and you can go to RFA as aggressively as you want. But the quality that's actually there in RFA to turn a franchise around, I feel, is not as high as the draft picks. And I think it's going to come down to you guys obviously just hitting in this draft. And I imagine you're obviously not tanking as well as Matt and I are in terms of both of us looking like we're solidifying our 101s. So I'm sure Matt and I will give you some tips for next year if you need it.
Nope. I'm done. Colin's made fun of me enough. I'm done being in this this category. I gotta start making this team better. So, but that's the TT Draft Capital. The next thing we're getting into is the pink conversation, and there's really not a conversation because Matt is owning it. Like you saw in the before slide, he's 0-10, but those points for are drastic. 23-43. The next one is 26-30, owned by the Dragons, but he's got 2 wins. So the next one even close is the Africans at 26-59. So pretty much if Ian wins another game, it's done, but it's already done. We're gonna have a pink piggy in the main league for 2024.
Yeah, a lovely little Peppa Pig.
Yeah, it should be Peppa the Pig.
Yeah, the Peppa Pig pigskins.
Yeah. Yep, that's the pink side, and then the last stuff we'll get into is just some questions I have for predictions. So who do you think is going to win the PP?
So it's a difficult one. I think there are 2 front runners there. I think the Koalas and the Blizzards, and it's a coin toss. The Blizzards have just beaten the Koalas, but I think the Koalas will do it. I think they've been better more consistently throughout the season. I think they've got a slightly more deeper squad. They've got 5 starting running backs, which that's their powerhouse. James Conner's coming back. Kamara's around. I think the Koalas will win the PP this year.
All right. What about the RR?
It's difficult. It's very difficult to see outside the pigskins there. I think I would love a bit of an upset there. And again, I'm not in the RR, so I haven't really been following it as closely as the PP side of things. But I think there is a bit of a banana skin where Haji's Arsenic are probably the closest thing to a competitor in that RR. But they're obviously from the same chapter, and they've obviously will end up playing each other twice in the year. But just the powerhouse that the pigskins are, I can't see Haji creating that upset that we would all love to see.
So pigskins versus koalas, who's got it?
I'm going to have to be biased with my Southern Hemisphere man across the pond, on the other side, across the Indian Ocean. Lots of love for Paul. I'm sure what he's waking up and on his way to work now as we speak, Thirsty Fridays. But yeah, I'm putting my money on the Koalas to take the futures in 2023 and bring it back to the PP.
Nice. I like it. So my turn, who I think is going to win the DD. And I want to, it makes me want to wash my mouth out with soap just saying this. But
oh, no.
Obviously I'm not in the DD, so I'm just looking at like rosters and points scored. And like Nick is, God damn it, I can't really want to say this. Nick's a contender. I think it's between Nick and Tom, honestly. But hey, man, like one of these guys might surprise us. You know, they can get on a hot run. But I would love to see Tom win it over Nick. And if he does, I'll send him a bottle of whiskey. So because I have to say Nick is good. Over in the TT, I think it's really got down to 3 teams. I think Eric and Bill are going to knock each other out this week. So I'm interested to see how that goes. And I think Colin's a good sleeper. I think each one of them. I think Colin and Bill maybe a piece or 2 away. I think because Easy's been doing it. He's been doing it with 1 quarterback with just Mahomes because he didn't have anything else. And now he's got Kyler Murray back. So that adds a little oomph to him. But I think Bill can take it. I think Bill can take it down. And I think it's going to be Tom versus Bill and the championship. And I'm rooting for Bill because it's biased, obviously. So
there we go.
Yep.
Look, I think the one thing that you just pointed out both sides, like I've just looked at Nick's team as well, and Nick's also got Kyler Murray coming back. And look, both of those teams have done incredibly well.
I didn't know he was in here. I forgot he was in here. The Tyrants suck.
But I think both those teams have done so well this season without Kyler Murray. is testament, and I think he's going to be their league winner. So I think it's going to be a Nick and an easy final, unfortunately. And let's hope Easy puts Nick in his place.
Here's the difference, though, man. And I'm in this conference, so I will tell you, Eric has got nothing to work with as far as draft capital, and his offers are like, I'll be nice. They're not good. They're not good. They're not good, people. They're not good. So Bill is not afraid of making moves. So don't count Bill out. Bill will do what he's got to do. And he's got tons of draft capital and assets to move around. So
make plays. It's as you say, it's business end. I know the draft deadlines, obviously, the trade deadlines ended in the NFL, but it's gonna get interesting the next 2 weeks.
They got a week, so let's get it done. You know, I'm in some trade talks right now with a couple people. So all right, last thing is closing statements, buddy. You got anything?
Yeah, not much. Just selfishly for the Saints. We are trying to avoid pink, but everyone is available on the block. All my 1 year guys. If anyone wants Kyler Murray, I'll listen to you. Shameless plug. But at the same time, look, this is the exciting time of the season. I know we've all been through our seasons and we're there, but it's the business end. People need to start making moves before the deadline, and then it's a race for the bottom and then a race for the top. So yeah, let's roll.
No, man, I agree. It's been an interesting season. It's been fun. It's gone by way too damn quick. I do appreciate off season because it's when you get to put all your plans in place, and it just seems like the season just like you're just trying to keep up. But yeah, man, it was a good time. I appreciate getting back together with you, talking with. We've had, I think, more people in the chat than we've ever had. I really appreciate that. So yeah, we had an agenda, but we just chopped it up and talking football with you and talking football with the guys in the chat. Like it's always a pleasure. So I appreciate you, appreciate them, and yeah, man. Until next time.
Man. Yeah, we'll have to get a little playoff run, a championship pod on or something.
Definitely. So yep, for everybody that's watching, everybody's listening, and to Nate, hey, we appreciate you guys, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Cheers, man.